Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Cooper. I'm president of the Northland Area Business Association. Lived in the area since 1969. And right now we're going through major changes. We're working together with all aspects of the community to improve the conditions, and I can assure you we're moving in that direction. This morning we're here to talk about hotel legislation, and at this time I'd like to turn over the microphone to Zach Kline from City Council.
Thank you, Dave. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Zach Kline, member of Columbus City Council. I chair the Safety Committee, and it's a great day in the City of Columbus for the collaborative effort that City Council, the City Attorney's Office, the Department of Public Safety, and the the Ohio Hotel and Lodging Association, the Columbus Chamber of Commerce have all come together with neighborhood leaders to draft legislation to hold bad actors accountable in the City of Columbus that are operating hotels and motels that are criminal fronts and disguising them as legitimate properties. This was a collaborative effort that represented private industry, represented folks from the community, represented folks from the Department of Public Safety and the City Attorney's Office that have come together to create what I think is going to be a national model of how cities can partner with the private sector to create a regulatory scheme to ensure that good actors that are hotels and motels get a chance to stay open and thrive in a community, which is something we always care about and we want to create. But at the same time, we hold bad actors that are criminal front hotel motels accountable. This regulatory scheme, which will be an annual permit, will look at factors such as patterns of criminal activity, such as prostitutions, drugs, gangs, repeated acts of violence, a call for service ratio that focuses on criminal activity, and that because due process is so important to us, we're going to give opportunities for folks to that maybe fall behind on these numbers and are problems in the community a chance to remediate and fix their problems. What I believe this legislation does, frankly, is create a regulatory scheme that is fair, it's impartial, and looks at facts and figures based on criminal activity that when folks that are using these hotel motels for prostitution, drugs, human trafficking gangs that spill out into the communities and wreak havoc on our communities, that we can hold them accountable, and if they don't fix it, we shut them down. So behind us we have, not behind us, but across the way, just as an example of what the type of hotel and motel we're looking at, the Nights Inn. So 112 rooms, Nights Inn. 2012, 291 calls for service. 2013, 213 calls for service. 195 calls for service in 2014. In less than a 3-year period, nearly 800 calls for service to just one property. 2 homicides, multiple arrests. We don't need that in our neighborhoods. We don't need that in our city. And together, we're going to shut them down. So next, I'd like to bring up my partner in this, the Director of Public Safety, George Speaks.
Some of our hotels and motels in our city has served as a haven for drugs, prostitution, and violence. These hotels prey upon unsuspecting out-of-town travelers. They diminish our nearby businesses and our neighborhoods. And while the vast number of hotels in Columbus are safe, this seminal legislation will either help to reform or close the few that are not. The key to this legislation is the ability to license and to revoke a license for repeated criminal acts or repeated calls that drain our public safety resources. I predict, as Councilmember Kline just stated, that this seminal legislation will soon be copied and adopted across Ohio and throughout our nation. I'd like to thank Councilmember Kline for bringing this issue to the forefront, Officer Scott Klinger and Larry Geist for their outstanding work in this area, City Attorney Rick Pfeiffer, Assistant City Bill Spalaza, and the Columbus hotel and motel industry who have stepped up Again, the vast majority of the hotels and motels do provide a safe place to stay, but the industry has stepped up to help rid of the bad actors in the industry here in Columbus. Thank you.
And next, we're going to have the guy who's been in the courtroom on the front line of this battle, a champion for neighborhoods, Mr. Bill Sperlaza from the Columbus City Attorney Office, Richard C. Pfeiffer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. On behalf of myself and City Attorney Rick Pfeiffer, thank you all for being here. And thank you to everybody behind me that worked so hard to give this city this tool to help us combat the criminal element in some of our hotels here in the city. About 3.5 years ago, I began working with two of Columbus Police Department's finest, Officer Scott Klinger and Officer Larry Geis, who are behind me. And we started researching some of the criminal patterns, some of the criminal activity, some of the data in this area, and we came to find that we had some poorly managed hotels that were operating essentially as small criminal enterprises, welcoming prostitution, drugs, gangs, things of that nature. We decided we need to do something about it. We began using the nuisance abatement code to pursue some of the bad actors, some of the worst in our city. What we came to realize and what frustrated us is that even though it was well known some of these properties were bad actors, were mismanaged, were crime-ridden facilities, there was nothing stopping them from getting permits to operate as a hotel. And we thought that that was a problem. And Officers Klinger and Geis were on the forefront of researching the issue and finding similar ordinances around the country where municipalities would license hotels. So they really found the model, and we began discussing the issue, and we brought it to Councilmember Kline. And everybody behind me here, Mr. Speaks, the Hotel Motel Lodging Association, Columbus Police Department, City Attorney's Office, are all responsible and all have a part to play in this. But in particular, I want to thank Councilmember Kline for his leadership on this issue, taking the reins and listening to us when we came to him and said there is a problem that needs to be addressed. He brought members of both sides of the table together and demonstrated the leadership necessary to get us to this point. Mr. Kline, I thank you for that and for your service to our city. Thank you all.
So when we set out to do this, it was a priority of mine to bring the industry into the room and on board. Because if we don't have their buy-in, we're not going to have the best piece of legislation. It's always been my approach on City Council to have a collaborative partnership with all aspects of the community. And in this instance, it's the neighborhood groups, and it's also the Hotel and Lodging Association. So I'd like to bring up their director, Joe Savaris, to say a few words and thank him personally for the partnership of creating this regulatory scheme, because they know that these bad actors hurts the good hotels and motels, and we have tons of them in the city of Columbus, and we can't let these bad actors ruin the good work that they're doing. So Joe, thank you.
Thank you. I am Joe Savaris, the Executive Director of the Ohio Hotel and Lodging Association. I would like to thank Councilman Kline, and we commend the efforts of the councilman, City Council, the police and public safety officials to include our industry and to be responsive to the important concerns that we raised during the formulation of this legislation, and the result of that collaborative effort has produced a better outcome. We looked at legislation and models from all over the country, and I really do believe that this is the best example that we have seen so far nationally of how to tackle a tough problem at the local level. From the beginning of this discussion, naturally it was important for our industry to ensure that there would be no negative impact on the responsible business owners and hotel operators that we represent. And it's our belief that this legislation accomplishes that. Especially important to the lodging industry is the ability contained within this proposal to work with the city and help properties who want to improve their operations and provide better experiences for visitors to our community. Creating the best visitor experience in Columbus and helping protect our neighborhoods is good for the travel economy. It will produce more business, not only for the hotel industry, but for the entire community. And for those reasons, we appreciate the effort that all of the organizations represented here today have put into this, and we commit to working forward with them and seeing this through. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least is Emmanuel Remy from the Northland Community Council. Northland has been a champion on this issue. A lot of the hotels plaguing the city have been in the Northland corridor, and it has been the Community Council and the advocacy of several neighborhood groups that brought this problem forward. And it's been our pleasure working with them, trying to figure out the best model possible. So, Mr. Remy. Yeah.
Thank you very much. There's so many thanks to go around today. Thank you to City Attorney Rick Pfeiffer and the best zone attorney, I believe, in the city, Bill Spralaza. We also have the best police liaisons in our community, both Officers Scott Klinger and Larry Geis. And most especially, I thank the dedication and leadership of Councilman Kline for taking this issue on and making sure that this is passed to benefit the entire city of Columbus. This was truly a grassroots effort that was years in the making, as many people have said, and it started with realizing that we had a real problem within our community, and these problem property owners were affecting everybody that surrounded the area, including giving a bad name to a great community within the city of Columbus. It started with finding the right legislation around the country to model after, and then to improve it to make, like so many other people have said today, one of the best pieces of legislation in the entire nation. It's great to have such a long-standing grassroots effort turn into something that's going to benefit the entire community and the entire city of Columbus. It makes Northland a better place. It's going to make the city a better place to live, work, and raise a family. So thank you again for everybody that's standing behind me. Thank you to the community that stepped up and helped so much. And we are so proud to help lead this legislation through and help to make this city a better place. Thank you.
This is how City Council operates. We listen to the community and try to solve problems here in the city of Columbus. And I think what you see with this piece of legislation, police are on board, city attorney's office is on board, public safety is on board, the neighborhood groups are on board, the lodging association's on board, because this is a fair and tough piece of legislation that's going to hold people accountable, reward good work, punish bad behavior, and make the city of Columbus the greatest place to live, work, and raise a family. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time, and that concludes our press conference.